addressing the rubric connotation, the impact political acts may have on the individual lives or society more broadly. So I'll be focusing on society more broadly. So society is impacted by the class assortment and brainwashing as it keeps the political figures in power. So what's aimed at here is that the hierarchical structure in Brave New World, Huxley creates this kind of structure so that the world state retains their power. So in retaining their power, they'll face minimal resistance in terms of corruption and people trying to rebel against the masses. And what they aim to do is to try and exercise this power to brainwash the individuals in such a way. So the quote used here, as we can see this point, is, "Universal happiness keeps the wheels steadily turning, truth and beauty come." So in creating these kind of class assortments where you have epsilons who are kind of seen as the workhorses with servitude, like with the servitude, the slavery, and your alphas where you have the smarter the brains, people who do the kind of high order stuff. In doing this, you have a stability in society, and what this does is it kind of keeps the powers in place at the top, and there'll be minimal resistance in terms of corruption. Also, the world state has complete power, so there's no other authority that's kind of dictating what happens. And in doing this, they set up a social hierarchy to retain their power, and this is also seen in the quote, "What man has joined, nature is powerless to asunder." So in the use of biblical allusion with reference to the Gospel of Mark, they've kind of used inverted syntax here in order to change the quote around where they can kind of make man as the primary purpose, like they've replaced themselves with God rather than God being in the first part of the quote where God has joined everybody and man is powerless to asunder. It's man has joined everybody and nature is powerless to asunder. So they've kind of reversed the roles in this quote, and therefore this shows how Huxley cleverly used this quote to kind of give the reader an indication of what Huxley's trying to point out.
So I'll be focusing on the individual aspect of this rubric extract. So we're looking at the same quote. "Universal happiness keeps the wheels steadily turning." However, let's focus on the individual connotations of this. We know that the metaphor in this quote, where is the wheels steadily turning, refer to the wheels of society staying in order, so society is stable. However, the second part of the quote, "Truth and beauty can't," connotes the idea that emotion should be eliminated. This refers to all emotions, including that of love. Now, the removal of love has in itself its own impacts. The concept of love may become, through this passion, humanity develops a desire to impress another in the hope that they may extend this passion. This exact passion drives one to act out of the ordinary, which in some cases may in turn disturb the equilibrium of a brave new world. Through the consumption of soma, people believe they're in a utopia because they only experience the happy feelings, where they don't acknowledge even the existence of the sad feelings, simply taking soma to eradicate them instantly. Therefore, in essence, it becomes a disturbance.
So today I'll be talking about soma and propaganda. Soma is used by Huxley as a metaphorical representation of vices used to maintain control over society. This control is seen through the manipulation of the individual mindset. So for instance, consider the anti-communist propaganda that swept through the Western world during both the Cold War and Vietnam War. The government is seen to contort the individual to adopt the ideal beliefs of the governing party, which leads to the demise of the individual in favor of a larger social being. Linking back to the concept of soma, this conditioning manipulates the individual mindsets to brave the world, and society is provided with a false sense of happiness. Quoting in relation to this, swallowing half an hour before closing time, a second dose of soma can raise a quite impenetrable wall between the actual universe and the mind. So soma is personified, which is capable of dividing human beings emotionally. So through this, it can be seen that political control is derived from the use of soma, which can extinguish emotional aspects of society, which evokes social instability.
So I'll be looking at the Cyprus experiment. So what the Cyprus experiment was 22,000 alphas were placed on an island of Cyprus, and what they had to do was sort of create a world for themselves and sort of create a sort of sustainable community where they could go forward together. But what happened was that, of course, the alphas with the lower grade jobs were unhappy, wanted better lives, of course, being conditioned to be alphas. They wanted to have the free will to, be the ones that thought, to be the ones that would be the thinkers and the ones who created the things that would allow for the community to move forward. But being placed in those lower grade jobs, they were restricted, and that's what their conditioning didn't allow them to do. And this experiment highlighted to the rest of the people, so the world controller was able to use this experiment to highlight to everyone else that was in the world state that this sort of system where hierarchy is in place is required in order to maintain a community which is able to sustain itself. And of course, when they're explaining this experiment, they forget to mention, intentionally of course, that by conditioning all the members of the experiment, there is no free will. So by conditioning them, they remove their ability to think for themselves and to sort of think for how they can benefit the community and how every job is necessary for the community to work properly and sort of move forward together. And this is further emphasized through the use of the metaphor, the ideal population is like an iceberg with 1/9 above the water and the other 8/9 below. Using this metaphor, he highlights his chilling nature in sort of not being concerned with the ones that are below the water, sort of just maintaining his focus on those who are above the water, who he sort of relates himself to, being the alphas. And yeah, thank you.
Okay.